Oh, great. Another podcast about the paranormal, right? Well, if you're thinking this, hopefully you will be pleasantly surprised. Welcome to All Things Odd and Strange, where we discuss odd topics in kind of a strange way. My name is Lou, and I will be your host for this podcast. I'm a philosopher, a researcher, and an experiencer. Been researching the odd and the strange for the past 30 some odd years. So anyway, podcasting is a brand new adventure for me, and I certainly hope that you will come on the expedition with us. This podcast is going to be a very brief intro into what this particular podcast is going to be all about and what makes it a little bit different than the regular paranormal podcasts of just telling spooky stories or etc. You know, they're paranormal investigators' latest adventures kind of a thing. And that's not what this is. Some of the topics we will be covering, though, are curiosities, both physical and spiritual, time slips, synchronicities, near-death experiences, miracles, angels, both good and bad. We'll be taking a good look at the validity of paranormal investigators, and there'll be some rather intriguing stories to cover. And we will be covering also the latest manifestations of all things odd and strange. So, what makes us a little different here at All Things Odd and Strange is that we will be exploring topics using a philosophical, psychological, with a touch of theology, kind of a lens, going through these lenses to be able to explore the topic that's in question at the time. Okay, well, for example, have you ever experienced something that didn't fit your expectations of reality? Well, I have several times. Now, I consider myself a fairly skeptical and rational person. So, and I do hold a degree in philosophy. And so I tend to question everything. Well, I question an ant walking across the floor and what's its purpose in doing so. And was there really an ant there? So you get the gist. You know how philosophers are. So anyway, I have and experienced some things throughout my life. So, okay, let's just give one example. I lived in a house that was built in 1713 in Connecticut. It was beautiful. It was on 5 acres of property in the quiet northeast corner, as they call it. And it was a roommate situation. I'll call her Carol. She owned the home. And it was a cute little Cape home. But it had things that happened. But it never felt different. It didn't feel off in any way. It felt actually quite warm and welcoming. That's what people used to say the minute they hit the front door. So anyway, the typical kind of thing that we would experience in that house is that you would be upstairs or another part of the house, and the house wasn't that big. It was a small Cape home. It had a shed dormer on the back. And what you would most frequently experience is you could hear somebody coming in through the front door. You know, the sound that people make when they come home. They're taking off their coat, the rustle and bustle, boots and, closing the door and all that kind of stuff. Well, that would happen quite often. And you go out there to go see, who came home? And nobody, just nobody. Another frequent thing that would happen there is that little items will go missing. Nothing ever very big. They're usually smaller things like little pieces of jewelry or, I don't know, a thumbtack that you left somewhere. So, and you placed it there. You turn around and it's just gone. And then I remember one evening we came home from work because we used to carpool to work because we worked at the same place. And Cape homes are all built the same. You open up the front door, and right in front of the front door is the stairway that goes upstairs. And then there's the living room off to the left, and usually a bedroom off to the right. And the kitchen is in the back. Anyway, we come home, unlock the door, open the door, and right there on the stairway coming down, was a little gift bag. I mean, the small kind. And we just stopped and kind of looked at each other. And it's like, what? So we walked over there and opened it up, peered inside, and there was several things that had been missing like forever. There they were. Now, that was odd. But the oddest thing that happened in that house was what one evening we were upstairs discussing the day's whatever, and I'm still questioning this. We heard the loudest, it's not a bang, it was like an explosion that happened downstairs. I mean, huge. I mean, the house shook. That's how loud this was. And it sounded like an explosion. But you could hear like the cracking of boards and the shattering of glass. And it was like, we just sat there and just looked at each other. I mean, the house literally shook. So we gathered up a little bit of courage and we were like tiptoeing downstairs little by little. One foot in front of the other. Neither one of us wanted to go first. And we peered around the corner into the living room where we thought this thing took place. And you won't believe what we found. We thought for sure someone was going to be in their car dead, that they ran into the house. That's how big this was. But there was nothing. There was absolutely nothing. So anyway, that's a couple of the stories of this particular house. It, like I said, but it never felt odd. It never felt strange. But this was the nature of this particular house. Built in 1713. Yeah, it was certified and everything. It was old. There was some old legends, too, that George Washington actually slept there. But he slept around a lot of places in New England, so who knows? Not only the listener of the story, but the person who actually experienced this. So what was this? What is it? How am I going to interpret this story, given my own framework, background? Or do we just leave it up in the air and say, I can't, and I won't, and I'm going to let it go? Well, most of us are pretty curious. This raises questions, a lot of questions, actually, about our interpretive tools. And things that we use, our base we use to actually put a meaning to a story. If it's happened to us before, if we can relate to it, if it's never happened to us before and we're really out in left field somewhere trying to figure this out. Does the experience only have the meaning that I'm attributing to it? I could be wrong in my interpretation of the story too, or what really was going on. What's happening? Do we even know what these kind of events are? These are very human questions. The first one is, why me? Why this? Why now? What does this experience mean? You know, people do desire answers. And that is the big gaping hole when people start talking about the odd and the strange. That being said, I am firmly convinced that there is a reason for everything. I know you're going to giggle at that. But also, I don't believe in coincidences. And, you know, I think we'll be delving into those realms there at a later time. So, well, I'll leave you with these questions as food for thought. And I think that's enough for now. It's a good little taste as to what we'll be exploring on this brand new podcast. So please hit the like and share button. That would really tremendously help this little fledgling channel at this point. And try and visit us next week because we'll be addressing paranormal investigators. And particularly investigators who do home investigations and have clients. The questions will be, do they help? Do they hurt? Or are they even necessary? Again, please like and subscribe. I totally appreciate that. Much appreciated. Thanks for listening, and hope to see you on the flip side.